Alright guys, I figured I would do a multi-function video here. Just a cold and dark takeoff and a VOR navigation quick training course. So first step I'm going to do is turn on my nav lights, strobe lights, which gives you pilot visibility. Turn on my batteries, generators. Put my radar to map. I have my next airport over. The VOR is 113.6, so I got that dialed in. I can change my setting here to VOR, and that will activate once you get up in the air. So first step here, get it ready to start. So I'm going to turn on the ignition for engine 1, starter. Up here you got your N1 gauge. It's going to scroll to about 10%. Once it does, I'll set the fuel to on the number 1 engine, and it'll start to spool up. I have my HUD minimized in here. I don't ever fly with it, but just for the sake of this video, so you can see the trim and the flaps and everything else you want to see, I normally fly with that off just because I don't like looking at it, but for this video I'll leave it on. So as you can see, number 1 engine spooling. Once it gets to about 50% here, you can turn the igniter off. Number 1, igniter off. Number 2, ignition on, starter on, watching the N2. Once it gets up to about 10%, turn the fuel on. Right there, turn it on. Still scrolling, got a good light off. If you want to, you can turn on your reticle there. I normally just keep it about there in the middle. Just for me, it's almost like a HUD I use for landing, aiming. You don't have to, but I do. Alright, engine 2 is almost up to speed, so once it is, we'll turn the igniters off. Alright, ignition off. So for the F5, the up trim is about 10%. Clicked up to 10%. You see it right there. Flaps to auto. You see it right there. Flaps 8 degrees. And let's taxi out. Brakes off. This is Cherry Point, by the way. I'll just take off of runway 32 left. As far as the jitters and what people are seeing, the shaking, when you're, I'm not a pilot, but I do work on Harriers, and this little bit of shaking is perfectly normal. The struts are charged to a very high PSI with nitrogen and hydraulic fluid. Like for instance on the Harrier, our nose strut is filled almost completely in the shock absorber with hyd fluid, and then 27 to 2800 psi of nitrogen is added into the nose strut shock absorber. So any little bump on the runway, and you're gonna feel it right in the seat of your pants. It's like a thump because there's so much pressure in the struts for landing purposes, because they have to take a lot of abuse. And then you also have the tires, which have a lot of nitrogen. Like for say on the Harrier, the nose tire has 150 psi in it. So for takeoff I use low nose wheel steering. Got my trim set to 10, flap set to auto, 8 degrees. And let's give it a go. So we'll give it some throttle here. Ease up on the throttle. Full afterburner. Airspeed coming up to 100, 120, 140, 150. Rotate. Unsticks. Gear up. Flaps up. Now this is a manually trimmed airplane, so you got to keep after the trim. But as you can see, now that we're airborne, I do have my course deviation. So right there, you can see I got to fly just a little bit more towards the north, and I'll have my heading right to EWN, which is New Bern Airport. So we're heading that way right now. If I turn this way, you can see that my course needle is deviating. If I turn back the other way, you can see it will go back towards it. So I can turn my deviation needle, which will show exactly which way the airport is. So right there, level off, get it exact. So right about, oh, wrong way, right about there, we should be flying close to right over the station. There's the airport right there. So the VOR does work. You got to have it in VOR. I don't know what else is left to say about that, other than it's just time and practice to get used to the plane. Every plane is different. Settings are different. You just have to keep flying them to get proficient in them. This one is still new to all of us, so you just have to keep working at it to get it to work. So we'll head back towards Cherry Point. Well, I got wind setting set to low this time, so I can land on 3-2 left, the opposite way we took off. So right now we're at 350 knots, 3,300 feet. Start slowing down. Pull out a little speed brake there. There's the runway off our about the 10 o'clock position. Speed brake off, gear down, bring in some flaps, full, and then start adding in some trim so your AOA indicator is in the yellow. You got to work your throttle to keep your aiming point while adjusting trim. So once you get your AOA indexer in the yellow, then it's just aiming with your throttle and stick and rudders to keep you lined up on the runway. And this is a high wing loading aircraft, so you're going to be landing 150, 160 knots, just like the takeoff. It's just how it is. It's got a small wing, so smaller the wing, the faster the takeoff and landing speeds are, just because there's more weight on the wing. That's about it, really. Just come in nice and easy, 150, 160 knots, get over the threshold, pull to idle, glider right on down, flaps off, brakes on, shoot out, shoots out, slowing down there, and we're back. Just a quick little flight to show you that the aircraft does work. I know there are some bugs that will need to be fixed, just like any launch. The version that we had just before this one didn't have some of these bugs, so we're trying to figure out why, what happened, but we will keep working on it, and it will get better over time. Thank you.